Good evening, everyone. This is Robin with another edition of Horror Pop After Midnight. And I have a co-host tonight, a good friend of mine, Deborah. How's it going, Deborah?
Doing pretty good. How about yourself?
Pretty good. You having a good week so far?
I am. Doing really good.
That's pretty good. How we bumped into each other at the theater when we went and saw Elvis.
That is true. Seats side by side.
That is fun. Yeah, let's talk about Elvis. Austin Butler, who plays Elvis Presley, he did a lot of homework on Elvis. He looks like him. He's got the sex appeal. He can dance like him, talk like him, and sing like him.
That is true. He did a lot of work doing some acting myself. He put in a lot of work to portray that character. He did it very well.
So what did you think of the movie Elvis?
I really liked how the director took the story from the perspective of his kind of crooked manager, Tom Parker. He was kind of labeled, the crook, the cheat, and took advantage of Elvis throughout the years and everything. But it's his way of feeling like he needed to set the story straight.
I think so, too. And I love how the start of the movie where you hear, Parker narrating like it's his movie, but it's mostly about Elvis.
Exactly. I really liked how the director took that angle on it and kind of showed you more of what really influenced Elvis, more not just the whole story of Elvis's life, just what influenced him to make him become Elvis. And I really liked how they took him down visiting Beale Street and what really influenced his style, his sound, all of his influences that I didn't even know, like B.B. King, Big Mama Thornton, Little Richard, and they were some of his biggest supporters. And I learned so much from that movie about him, but just not about his life, but it's about the small details of his life that I really enjoyed.
Online, Elvis's first girlfriend, which we see for a short time in the movie before, he met Priscilla, she was going online, saying they should have added her more into the film because she was saying she was through Elvis's life through all of his years.
Well, everybody kind of wants their 15 minutes of fame as well.
I think so, too. And the cool thing I liked about Elvis was his whole relationship with his mother and father and how much he really loved those guys.
Yes, I really did enjoy that. It also was kind of interesting because I did a little bit of research about Graceland and stuff too, because I know at one point, when things were going bad, there was a chance of him losing Graceland and all of that, that Lisa Marie still owns 100% of Graceland, and I think it's great that they've kept it. They've kept it in the family for people to still, enjoy. But yeah, just the love is his family. That's who it is, and for them to keep it in the family, just shows a lot of how close knit that family was.
Oh, it was. So in the movie, there was a lot of great scenes, and there's a few scenes where I had a tear in my eye too.
I agree. There was a lot of emotions that you felt throughout that movie, and, having Austin Butler actually pull you in like that, that's great acting. That is definitely great acting.
I think it's cool, and I love how, where it's portraying Elvis that B.B. King and all of his friends from Beale Street were telling him he should go branch out on his own. He was a big star anyway. And I wonder what it would have been like if he finally went on a world tour around the world without the influence of Parker.
Yeah, it kind of makes you wonder. But I also seen that even though Parker was greedy in the things that he did for Elvis, but I don't know that somebody in the way the business is could have got him where he needed to be.
I think so too, and I love how they had that love-hate relationship. There were some good ideas Parker, gave Elvis, and, of course he did what he was told. And then I also kind of liked it where he wanted to branch out to, have his own originality too, especially during that Christmas show when he wanted Elvis to sing all these Christmas, tunes, but instead he wanted to do what he wanted to do.
Yeah, I think him just like in life, surrounding yourself with the right people really makes you become a better person. And I think, having B.B. King and, all of them supporting him and telling him, people don't do this without a reason. Why is he doing this? Why is he making you do this? There's a reason behind it. And I think him listening to the people that he even respected made him who he was of, wait a minute, I don't have to do all this. This isn't who I am because I don't want to be the laughing stock.
I think so.
This is who I am.
Yeah, I think so too. And I loved how, he's done a lot of movies. Some of them were good and some of them were like floppy and stuff. I loved how he got into the movies for a little bit to get into his acting, his acting chops. And that was pretty interesting how he had a rise in his films and then he had that big old downfall.
Yeah, that was another dream that he wanted to live. He wanted to be in the movies and be like James Dean, and he achieved that. He put his mind to something of what he wanted to do, and he did it.
Another thing I liked about him, too, when he was, it starts off where it shows him when he's growing up, I loved how he was like a huge comic book fan, and he was a big Captain Marvel Jr. fan, which was kind of cool. I like that.
Yeah, he always, what was it, The Flash, I think that he was a big comic book person, that he always wanted to save the world, that he was the hero.
Oh, yeah, I think so, too. And I love how they explored how he made this record with Sun Records and how that got him out there because everybody kept on listening to his that certain song over and over again. And I love how he respected the people over Sun Records, which really found him and all that, and they totally respected him, and out of professional courtesy to let him go to spread his wings.
Yeah, they knew what they had with him, and they knew that they did not have the capability of him growing to where he needed to go, but they gave him his start, and they get all the credit for that, of getting him out there, for sure.
I think so too, and I love how Austin Butler got down doing those all those Elvis dancings. It was weird because when I was watching the movie, I wasn't picturing it was Austin. I thought it was really Elvis in a brand new movie. He was still alive, and I love his dance moves, and I love how the director got the scene where he had all the female fans where they were like getting really hot and bothered because of his dance moves, and they were having that little orgasmic feeling. Yeah,
absolutely. And you look at it today, of all the stars today, and we've had throughout the years, you can see their dance moves from Elvis, Michael Jackson, Prince. They all, derived from that. And it's amazing of how he became such an icon in music. His dance has lived on. Everything has lived on by him. And not many people have accomplished that. He broke through a wall, and he kept going. And he changed the world. He truly was a hero to so many people, as you can see those girls screaming.
I know, they were screaming a little bit. I was kind of mesmerized myself.
He definitely had the moves, for sure.
What were you saying in the movie that when you were watching it, it kind of, like you just said, but it kind of, you saw a little bit of Prince inspiration from Elvis in the movie, what you were telling me.
Yep, absolutely. Just some of the dance moves and things like that, moving those hips. They had it down. You can see how everything kind of picked up from there, the different moves, to make them their own, just like, Elvis did with some of the songs, like B.B. King song and, Big Mama Thornton, Hound Dog. he took from so many people and put it out into the world, and people are taking from Elvis now and putting it out into the world. And it's amazing that you see that Elvis is behind all of this.
I think so too, and I loved how he really loved his dad, because his dad was like really in trouble with the law, and he's done bad things, and no one would never give his father a chance, but Elvis still loved his dad besides his mom.
Mm-hmm. And he bought his mom that pink convertible, that Cadillac that she wanted. He always said, "I'd buy you a pink Cadillac," and that's one of the first things that he did.
He sure did. I was doing some research on Elvis as well. There was a story where Elvis, was buying a pink Cadillac, for him, and then he saw this like lady in the dealership was looking at that pink Cadillac too, and was like, she really wanted it, but Elvis could tell she couldn't really afford it. So Elvis told the guy at the dealership, he goes, "I'll go ahead buy that pink Cadillac for her too. Just give her the keys. Don't let her know it was me." So he bought her a pink Cadillac, but she found out it was from Elvis, and she was so happy that Elvis bought her a pink Cadillac.
Yeah, that's definitely amazing, because all through the movie they kept saying, these people are living off you. These people, that he was so generous and selfless with everything that he did. He didn't see that. He took care of the people who took care of him, and that was the difference.
Yeah, that's like when he had Graceland. That's why he had that entourage of people that were living and having fun on Graceland. You had like the farm animals, the cool toys, the cool rides. I mean, all the people he taken care of were actually like living in Graceland too.
Because, sometimes you have your family, and then there's the family you choose. And he surrounded himself with good people, except outside of sometimes his manager. But I don't think that if he wasn't that dirty, he would have gotten some of the stuff that he would have gotten.
But I didn't
Sometimes you got to be dirty in the business.
Yeah, and that's true. And that's how Parker got big. But I didn't like how, Tom Hanks was a great villain. I mean, you liked him and hated him at the same time, because he really did push Elvis. But his take on Parker, I didn't like how, he would do like business behind Elvis's back and make him like if he's like his slave mule when he's making dealings behind his back.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think Tom Hanks did a good job of portraying the character, but I was really disappointed in the way Tom Hanks portrayed emotion.
Okay.
He has a hard time in movies. If you kind of watch some of his movies, he has a hard time playing kind of villain roles. He's not like a villain. He has a hard time of portraying those emotions. And I think some of the prosthetics and things kind of prohibit him from showing some of the emotions that he should have portrayed through his face and through his eyes and things like that. And I just don't think his facial expressions kind of fit his emotions. I don't think he came as authentic to playing that role as he could have been.
Do you think there could have been a better actor than Tom Hanks that could have did that more to the real Parker, in your opinion?
I think so. I don't think Tom Hanks was really right for that role. Mm-hmm. I don't know who I would choose for the role, to be honest with you.
But
I just don't feel that he portrayed the emotion that should have been behind it, like facial expressions and he just kind of went through the phases, the lines, and things like that. But I think having some of the emotion of, anger and, sadness, having that portray more on his face to be more authentic, I think it could have been a lot better.
Yeah, Austin Butler, I'm glad they picked him. I was listening to an interview of his when he was doing Elvis. He stayed in character the whole time, and from being in character the whole time, he said he lost a few friends for not getting out of character. Yeah,
he even broke up with his girlfriend too, Vanessa Hudgens. So they even broke up during all of that whenever he was filming too. So, I mean, he lost a lot. But sometimes you got to dedicate yourself, and once you get into roles, you got to kind of stay in them because you're filming so much.
I think so too. And this movie's so good. I mean, I loved all the music in it, and I wouldn't doubt it if Elvis gets nominated in the Oscars. And I can see Austin and Hanks in a running for an Oscar.
I can see Austin. I don't see Hank.
Okay.
Yeah, I see definitely Austin, and I see maybe the movie being up maybe for, the best picture or something like that. Definitely Austin being, a leading actor in that category, definitely. I just don't think Tom Hanks, this is one of his best performances. He did a great job, don't get me wrong, but it could have been a better job if there was more emotion behind it to kind of feel what he was feeling, just like you felt what Austin was feeling.
Yeah, I mean, like I told you earlier in the show, Austin, he did so good. I mean, he did his job. When I was watching the movie, I kept on forgetting that was Austin. I kept on thinking it was Elvis because he was that good, and he really captured you into his emotions and everything, how he portrayed that character. And what was your thoughts about the actress who played Priscilla that was in the film?
I really liked her. I think that she played the emotions that she needed to play. I think she did a really good job. You could feel what she was feeling, what she was trying to portray. I think that she did a really good job, and I think they had a lot of good chemistry together.
And the one part between her and Elvis, when she finally had to let him go, she really loved him and she really cared about him, but she had to really, let him go. And you can tell she didn't really want to let Elvis go, but she had to.
I mean, you have to protect the child too. I mean, they had Lisa Marie, and, as a mom, she had to protect her kid, and she saw the downfall, and it wasn't helping, and all the women and everything else. I mean, it would just be too much for anybody.
Yeah, that was a trip. How they had the scene where Elvis was like singing in Vegas and he was like kissing every girl on the lip, and his wife is sitting right there, and I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah, sometimes they kind of forget. I mean, I've known a lot of stars and things like that, and I mean, you can sit back and just see, yep, in about a month they're going to be reporting a divorce. and they normally do. I mean, you can sit back and see it from afar, but whenever they're up there, they feel like they're portraying this character and things, and sometimes it just gets out of hand for them. I think reality and acting blurs.
I think so too. And when we went and saw Elvis that night, we saw the special screening before it was like shown, later on, this week. And I loved it. The whole theater was like full. And every time there was like a certain scene or certain anything what Elvis did in the film, you heard a lot of applauding, a lot of cheering. You heard, I mean, you can feel a lot of people, feeling the sadness through some of the sad stuff. And it was neat seeing like, the older fans who were there when Elvis first came, mixing with like, people our age. And then you see like these younger generations that were watching the movie too, to see what Elvis was all about.
Yeah, absolutely. And that again goes to Austin's acting ability and him pulling you into the emotions. I just don't think Tom Hanks did that.
Yeah, I don't think so either. And I loved on the beginning of the film where they had that little highlight reel where you see, Austin Butler, trying out as Elvis for the role, how he was dressed like him, and I loved how he was like picking on the guitar and tapping on it and was really getting into it.
I mean, he put in a lot of work. Like I said, people think sometimes acting is really easy. Acting is really hard. And for him to pull all of that together was was just amazing to me, because I know how many takes it took to get, just one of those scenes. I mean, it's crazy. But one thing I didn't know is that he only sung some of the earlier songs from Elvis in the movie. And as he got older, then they kind of overlaid and blended the tapes with his voice and Elvis to give it the vocal tone as possible up in his older age.
I think so too, and I thought that was just great. I was thinking the same thing. I love how the director did that. You can tell, the director who directed this film, really liked Elvis too, and wanted to give Elvis a little bit more of a justice. Just like on that reel when Lisa Marie said, of all the actors that played Elvis, she said she was thankful, they did it about her father and all that, and she wasn't like taking anything away from him. But she says since all the actors who done Elvis to the T, like dead on, she was really praising Austin.
Yeah, she said he got it right.
And yeah.
I mean, I agree with her. He did an excellent job.
I think so too. And Priscilla Presley was kind of, giving the thumbs up a little bit too.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. And I mean, that's huge. I mean, that's a huge compliment, whether you get any awards or whatever from that. Just hearing that from them, that you was able to portray Elvis, I mean, right there is the win.
Yeah, he's, of all the Elvis films I've seen of different actors playing, by far he would be number one. But my number two, I would have to go with, was a young Kurt Russell who played Elvis, and when John Carpenter directed it.
Yeah, I'll have to go back and watch that one. I don't know that I've seen that one.
Yeah, he nailed it to the T too. And I remember in a past interview, Priscilla really, really praised him when he was doing that, because the movie he did was a TV movie. Actually, it wasn't a theatrical movie. It was like a TV movie. You know how back in the 80s where they had those made-for-TV movies?
Yeah.
Yeah. So since we both saw Elvis, what's your whole thoughts of the film? And out of 4 stars, what would you give it?
I mean, I would give it at least 3 stars. I mean, no movie's going to be perfect, and, I think some of the emotion and stuff was kind of left out of Tom Hanks and such. But I have to say, out of 2 hours and 39 minutes, I was entertained for all of it. So
I was too. And also, they interviewed the director. He said he has more... he said he had to take certain scenes out of the film because the movie he made was like over 4 hours long. And he also had a scene where, Elvis met Nixon too. And one of the scenes he cut out. And I hope someday in the near future we get that whole 4-hour movie cut of Elvis.
I'm kind of glad they took it out, because I'm tired of movies putting in so much political stuff. And I think that there would have been some political spin from it if they would have done all of that. And I'm kind of glad they kept it mostly about Elvis.
Yeah, and I also kind of love it how they still kind of, did more of Elvis, but I love how, they made Parker like the secondary character in Elvis' story, and I love how they made him like the narrator of the film. It's like, hey, I'm narrating this film. This may be about Elvis, but I'm narrating it. And it felt like he was really telling the story about Elvis, but actually, the director was trying to push more of the story of Elvis than Parker.
Yeah, absolutely. And, for an $85 million budget to make this movie, I think they did great with costumes, music, and everything. And I really loved how they kind of portrayed some of the music and kind of gave it a little bit of twist for sort of like, now music with, Elvis music, like, the song Vegas, is Doja Cat. The King and I was Eminem and CeeLo Green. I mean, those people, like, yeah, I want to contribute to this Elvis movie, again, shows you what kind of respect and stuff people had for Elvis.
Yeah, and I loved Elvis's style. I loved the bright colors and the uniqueness of how he, portrayed himself. He portrayed himself, he was just like a down-to-earth guy that, was really loving life, and, he was blessed. He was able to have this phenomenal career. I just like the smoothness about his whole his whole attitude and how he carried himself in the film.
Yeah, he had the swag, that's for sure.
I know. When he was dancing on that stage where the cops and all the politicians were threatening to arrest him, and he goes, something? Screw it. I'm going to dance on this stage anyway. They can come take me.
I mean, he stayed in his own. I mean, that's what he wanted to do. He was coming into his own, saying, listen, this is who I am. We're not doing this anymore. I want to show the world who I am, sing my songs, and I'm glad he did, because that was always the Elvis everybody loved.
Yeah, I'm glad he did too. And when I was watching the movie too, there was a bunch of stuff in the film I didn't know about too, which was a great learning experience, because you get your different take on Elvis. You're like, okay, I know Elvis, but you really don't. And then when you watch something that has more, historical part about him, you're like, whoa, I didn't know he, did that, and it's like, wow, I didn't know those songs came, from these like talented, like jazz, musicians and stuff who you mentioned, earlier in the show, which was just amazing. I didn't know that. Like you said, I was just shocked.
Mm-hmm. And the gospel. I mean, he was all into the gospel.
Oh, he had a lot of great gospel hits, man. I mean, you can tell God was loving him.
I think everybody was loving him.
I know. You can tell the whole theater did, because you just felt the positive energy, the clapping, the applauding. And then after the movie was over, you can tell people were like very satisfied about it. And when I was walking out, people were just giving it like a high rave.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of hard on movies because, like I said, I've been through some of the movies, the acting, I've seen how it all comes together and stuff, so I'm kind of harder on movies than probably what some people would be, and, I mean, this movie's excellent. I really highly recommend, everybody going and go see it, at least for seeing how music is influenced today. I mean, you still see Elvis today. Songs and everybody wanting to remake them, the dance moves, and it's just amazing of how everywhere you look you can see a little bit of Elvis.
I think so too, and I also give it a 3 stars too. I thought it was very good, and I totally agree with you. Everybody should go see it. Once it comes out on Blu-ray, I'm still in the physical media. I'm still old school. I'm definitely going to be adding that film into my film library.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've kind of liked a lot of the stuff the director has done, like Moulin Rouge and The Great Gatsby. I mean, he always has a way of telling the story, and I think that he did an excellent job with this, and I really think that he was the right director for this, to tell this story.
I think so, too, because you can tell he, when he did this film, he put a lot of heart and soul, blood, sweat, and tears in it. You can tell he really, put his whole mind into it, and he did a lot of research on it too. And like you said, everybody likes Elvis. I bet he was a huge Elvis fan himself.
I have no doubt with the way that he did this movie. Absolutely.
All right, Deborah. Thank you for coming on and talking with Elvis with me. I mean, it's always a pleasure seeing you everywhere, but seeing you at the theater, man, that just really surprised me. I was like, hey!
Well, that's where all the cool people were at that night, right?
Exactly. So did you get get a couple of the cool Elvis posters?
I did, absolutely.
Nice. But anyways, thank you so much for coming on, Deborah. This was fun talking about Elvis. And everybody, thank you for listening to Horror Pop After Midnight. You can listen to Horror Pop After Midnight at Podcast City Network at podcastcity.net. And you can also listen to Horror Pop After Midnight on roosterhamilton.com, Rooster Radio, Thursday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern. Like my Facebook page, hit the like page and say hi. And if you're into Twitter, it's Horror Pop After Midnight at Pop After. I'm also on Instagram at Horror Pop After Midnight. And I also got a YouTube channel, Horror Pop After Midnight. Hit the subscribe button to see what I do next. And if you want to catch up for some past episodes, you can subscribe and like to Horror Pop After Midnight on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple Podcast, Spreaker.com, and all those great podcast platforms out there. Everybody have a